Actually, let's start with Andrew Lund III. Andrew, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hello, everyone. I'm an environment artist. I've been working on State of Decay 2 now for a minute. My background's in architecture, so that's kind of things that I like: environment, architecture, foliage.
That is highly appropriate, yeah, because we had a lot of buildings to put together in this map. We've also got, joining us here, we've got Brian Rouleau. Brian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Brian Rouleau. I'm a technical game designer here at Valkyrie, and I've been working on State of Decay 2 for about as long as Andrew has. Um, and I've been primarily working on gameplay features and modifications.
And then, of course, there's you all's boss, Ryan Blinsky, who's with us today. Hey, Ryan, how are you doing?
Good. How's it going, Geoffrey? Thanks for having us.
So Valkyrie Entertainment is an outside studio that we've basically partnered with in order to create Update 26, the Homecoming update. They've got a lot of really talented artists, designers, and programmers who've done everything for us, from putting together the sidearms to a bunch of the other things that we're going to talk about today. Ryan, do you want to give folks a quick rundown about who Valkyrie is so they have a sense of who we're talking about?
Sure. Yeah. See, we're an independent studio. We are in Seattle, actually not too far from Undead Labs, probably less than a mile from your guys' studio.
Very convenient.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we partnered up with you guys during the pandemic. We haven't all met in person, only over Slack and Zoom. But yeah, we've been around since 2002. Right now, we're currently around 50 people in our studio. Not all 50 people are dedicated to State of Decay 2, unfortunately. They're on other projects doing other things.
That's not unfortunate. I like a lot of those projects, so I'm glad you're working on all these things.
We also do our own in-house development, and we're actually just now doing a soft launch of our mobile game, Guns Up Mobile. Oh. I'm just going to plug that real quick.
Yeah, go right ahead. That's great. Yeah, and you guys also have teams working on like Aliens, Fireteam Elite, a bunch of other stuff. Like, you guys are high-class studios.
Correct. Yeah, we just had a team come off that, and 2 years ago we were fortunate enough to work with Sony Santa Monica on God of War.
Oh wow!
Which got Game of the Year. So we were very happy to partner up with them for that.
Cool. And so, in addition to Valkyrie, I also want to introduce you all to Megan Bishop. Megan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello. I am the community manager / lighting artist here.
Yeah, so a lot of you already know Megan, because whenever we do one of these streams, she's usually moderating one of our channels. She's the one who funnels you all the information that you need in the chat, who brings your questions to us. And if you follow our social media feeds, she writes all of those things. And in fact, she's not just a social media manager and a writer. She also does a lot of art, like she just said. In fact, why don't we pop into this little view here so that I can show you some of my favorite things that she's done. She's created some new swag for us that we're going to be distributing somehow in the wake of Update 26. As you can see here, this is a placemat from the Fork in the Road Diner. It looks like an absolutely realistic placemat, like you might find in some small town diner. This is some gorgeous work, Megan.
Thanks.
And all of the little...
It was very fun.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying it was really fun to do.
Yeah, so all of the art that you see, like announcements of our stream, stuff like that, Megan makes all of that stuff herself. She's a very talented artist. And this time around, we actually had her working on the map itself, specifically doing the lighting, which is your area of expertise. Am I right?
Yes. I've been in the gaming industry since 2006. 90% of that time was being a lighting artist.
So you actually made us sort of a little bit of a demo here of of what our day-night cycle actually looks like if you speed it up over time. Because so when you're crafting the lighting for a map, it's not just picking one, sort of like, well, the sun's here, the light's going there, and I'm done, right? There's a lot more to it than that.
That's yes, a lot more.
So like, what do you have to do to make something like this?
Well, we use a software called True Sky for the day and night cycle, which controls the sun and moon positions and the atmospherics and clouds. And then another software called Enlighten to compute the bounce lighting throughout the world. And then there's just a bunch of different curves and controls that you have to plug in to make a whole day cycle work.
So the
that.
more complex and modern, like it used to be, I remember working on games, in the early 2000s, where basically you just have make a point light somewhere on the map, a couple of directional lights here and there, and it was and that was it. But the lighting models that you work with these days are just so complicated. They're like really based in like physics, and it's like reality, and you have to be basically tweaking reality to make this stuff work.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. Every little tiny thing you can think of that changes throughout the day, you need a different curve for. You need to remember to change it. Yeah, down to the color of the fog, throughout the day.
And so you and the folks at Valkyrie all needed to use these tools in order to create sort of the day and the night cycle and all of the lighting for the Trumbull Valley map. And specifically, the Trumbull Valley lighting is a little bit different from the lighting that we have in other parts of the map. Like, for instance, I think that the night is a little bit more of like a Hollywood night. Is that how you describe it?
Yes. So most of our other maps, we were going for the really claustrophobic kind of typical horror, horror game show or whatever. Not game show.
Yeah,
game.
yeah, like a horror movie. Like you want to feel like you're just trapped in the dark and you don't know what might be around the corner because you can only see a few feet in front of your face. We changed that for this time. It feels a little bit more like when you're shooting nighttime in a movie and you can see everything. It's just a darker shade of blue.
Yeah. And that actually came from a test level that Valkyrie did for us a while ago, which we fell in love with. Unfortunately, due to like technical and gameplay limitations, we couldn't bring it over 1-to-1 exactly, but it was a big inspiration for the nighttime change. And
since we're talking about the Valkyrie's contribution to the lighting, we should introduce one more Valkyrie artist who just joined us. Matt Tanari, do you want to say hi? Matt, are you there? I can't hear Matt. Never mind. Matt's not going to talk to us. It could be that his mic is off or something like that. The way that I've got this set up, whoever last spoke is who shows up on the screen. And so if Matt has trouble speaking, we also can't see Matt. So sorry about that, Matt. But yeah, so oh, wait, there he is. Hey there, Matt.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. That's great.
Okay, hi. Hello. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, no, that's totally fine. Everybody... Over the course of this stream, people are going to be filing in and out, and so we're just going to do our best to introduce people as they arrive. So Megan did a lot, tons of the lighting on the map, and you all also contributed to this stuff, including the lighting at some of the bases, if I'm remembering that right.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is correct.
Because when you're doing the lighting for the overall map, you're mostly thinking about the sun and the atmosphere and how the light streams through the entire world, and it's one set of settings for the entire world. But when it comes to nighttime, each building has got its own set of artificial lights, and you really have to think through, how you're going to make it possible for the player to see what they're doing when they're at home. And I feel like the bases in Trumbull Valley are much more brightly lit and easier to see in than a lot of our past bases have been. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, we went a little crazy.
I mean, looking at that...
A little bit different than what you had.
Looking at that image of the Ferris wheel when it pops up, it's just like one of the most over-the-top lighting schemes we've ever had in a base.
Yeah, it was really fun. So we were able to really just go a little crazy with these bases and kind of bring them to life at night with the idea that, you'd be able to see them from a distance and be able to make your way home.
Yeah, so I think that Megan did the lighting on about half the bases. Valkyrie did the lighting at about the other half of the bases, and all of these things. I mean, you guys are definitely going to want to get power to your base and look around at it at night, because this is some of the most sort of fancy lighting schemes we've ever done in a map. And it's one of those things where if you're not thinking about it, it's really easy to just accept. Oh yeah, of course, the lights are on at night. Whatever, I'm used to that in my regular life. But I'd encourage everybody who plays this game to really pay attention to the way these places are lit, because we're really taking huge strides forward with this team working on the game. So Ryan has put together actually some before and after shots to sort of help us kind of understand it. Actually, one thing I forgot to do is put our faces on this screen. Well, I'm gonna just edit this thing live right now. Boom! Look, there's me, and boom, there's Matt. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
So anyway, so Ryan, Andrew, Matt, all of you, you came in and we were working on this map, and we basically, asked you to help us with, here and there with the lighting, and also with sort of a lot of the kind of fundamental elements of sort of what makes the background of this world, the vistas, the foliage, the way that the ground textures look. You folks really sort of reached in and on sort of a sort of foundational level, really sort of leveled up what was possible in this map. Like, this is a before, an image of the map before you guys started working on a lot of this stuff, and here is an after. And I hope the audience can really sort of tell, like, watch this again as I turn it on and off. Not only did sort of the lighting and the atmosphere change, but look at that tree behind the shed, and how much better that tree looks these days. You guys really sort of got into our like foliage generation process. Look at that like evergreen tree to the left of it, and how it just looks, more sort of interesting, realistic. You can really sort of see the branches, and all of this, as far as I understand, performs just as well as the original trees did in the map. And that probably took a lot of work, didn't it, Ryan?
Yeah, quite a bit actually. We were able to partner with SpeedTree and get the latest version of SpeedTree 8 up and running. And every one of those trees you see is the exact same triangle count, same texture usage, and everything as the original trees, just done in SpeedTree 8.
So yeah, it's amazing how, like, I mean, it's not, these look like, these look like normal video game trees. There's nothing that stands out about them as being like bad or anything like that. But then you see the new ones, you're like, oh wait, no, that's what a tree looks like. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, one thing to note here too, we were able to utilize mega scans from Quixel as well. So a lot of the texturing has been scanned from real world data. So that's why they look so realistic, and we put our little touch on it as well.
Yeah, the same strategy that we use for our characters' faces, photogrammetry, that kind of thing. A lot of this modern technology that lets you grab all of the kind of surprising, like imperfections in the real world and bring them into a game model, stuff you would never think of, necessarily as an artist. We'll just get in there, and then it's up to you to sort of massage and tweak it and make the perfect version that'll appear in the game. One thing that the audience might notice is that each time I switch between the before and the after, one of the biggest things that changes is the skyline, is the horizon, which is a huge place that you guys put a ton of effort into this. Like right here, you can see like Danforth up above me, the sort of the wrecked buildings. Looks kind of like the background from Daybreak, and we've got all these sort of rocks in the background. Then you look at this, and you can see tree lines, a much more sort of dense, interesting, distant city. You guys really put a ton of work into this.
Yeah, this is something I'd like to pass off to Andrew Lund, actually, because he did a lot of work painting all those trees that you see in the distance there.
So what does Ryan mean by painting trees, Andrew?
Yeah, so on the Vista, there's a number of different hill meshes that are in the background. So they are actually geometry. They're not just flat cards. And then there are trees. Obviously, you can see along the hill, especially the little silhouette that you can see the darkness of the trees as the light pops through them. And those all kind of need to be painted and massaged to some degree to get a nice layering effect. So you have the closer hills, the trees are of a certain height that sort of makes sense. And then as the hills sort of march away and layer away into the fog, they get a little bit smaller, forcing perspective a little bit, make it feel more expansive, like you're in a real world and not just in the map that you're playing in. Like, makes it feel like you could go quite beyond the map.
So like right here, like players can see, they can kind of tell that these hills in the background are fairly close to the camera, and these new hills are just as close, but you've cheated the sizes of the trees to make them look like they're more distant, and also the atmospherics to make it look like they're more distant, so the player can feel like, wow, I'm seeing miles and miles away.
Yeah, and hopefully that's not revealing too much magic, but it should feel a lot better for players.
No, our audience loves to understand how the sausage is made. This is great. And one thing that's really worth pointing out, like you guys alluded to this real quick, the way that the sun is streaming through these leaves, of the trees. Like you can see sort of at the very top of the screen to the right of Andrew's head, like the backlit leaves, some of them you see are dark and shadowed, but the ones that just have one layer of leaf between you and the sun, they're lit up the way that a leaf is actually lit up in real life.
Yeah, so this is something that happens in real life. It's called subsurface scattering. When light passes through a very thin material, typically organic, you can hold a leaf up to the sun and you can see the veins in the leaf. That's the type of thing that we're bringing in here. It makes things feel a little bit more realistic. It pops them a little more. It's a little more vibrant, a little more color, a little more saturation. It's just, it's exactly what you want. It's fun, colorful, vibrant colors while you're killing hordes of nasty zombies.
So Dennis Okiba in the chat says, so the lighting changed with this update? That wasn't in the patch notes, because that's a fundamental part of building the map. What we said in the patch notes is, we got a new map. But that's why we do this this stream, is so that we can talk to the folks who built the map, and you can understand all of the detailed work that goes into making something like this, that when you're not when you're just barreling through the map, driving your car, smashing through zombies, you might not notice all this subtlety, but your brain notices it. And you can tell, you really feel like you're in a more realistic world. So one of my favorite pieces of art that you all brought in, so this is the original version of Mount Tanner. Those in the background. It's one of the biggest, horizon landmarks in Trumbull Valley ever since the first game. But you guys put a lot of work into making a new Mount Tanner that feels like it's a mountain. Like this feels like a nice rocky peak. Like you've just gotten really close to the top of the mountain. It's nice and everything, but this is a mountain. So yeah, so like, it's basically the same techniques. Are those really tiny trees trying to make that mountain look bigger than it actually is?
Yeah, there's some of that. The mountain is very big, and it's fairly close to the map actually. But yeah, we definitely applied some of those layering tree techniques to make it feel even larger than it actually is.
So I made the mistake of, I set our time of day to be about 2 o'clock, and then I left the game paused for a really long time, and so that is not going to help us get into sort of the sunset zone that you all were hoping that we'd be able to see during the gameplay. So let me get back into gameplay here. I've just cheated the time of day to be a little closer to sunset, which is probably one of the more dramatic times to sort of to look at the lighting in the game. You can see Mount Tanner there out in the background, just disappearing into the clouds. Oh, do you want to talk? Who was it that should talk a little bit about sort of this building the skybox of this game? It's Skybox is probably an old-fashioned term. I don't know if that's even appropriate now. It's not really a box anymore. It's a bunch of it's a bunch of pretty clouds.
No, those are actual 3D volumetric clouds. It's exactly what Megan was talking about before, with actual curves and editors that you can change the height of the clouds, the type of clouds, how cloudy it is during different times of day. So one thing we wanted to make sure we hit here was the clouds actually hitting the top of that mountain, so it kind of could sell the scale of it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's amazing what a difference it makes having like you said, like sort of the forced perspective on the trees, the clouds touching the mountain. It goes. This mountain, as far as I understand, is not any bigger than the original mountain we had. It just feels enormous, which is yeah. I love the sort of, I don't want to call it trickery necessarily, but the technique that you all have figured out how to use in order to sort of make this stuff really feel real. This reminds me of like when I went to Crater Lake, and the whole point of a place like that is to impress you with its scale, and this is having a little bit of that same effect.
Yeah, one thing I would like to point out about the mountain is it is 3D. That is not just a giant image of a mountain. That thing will change with the lighting throughout the day as well. Yeah. It was created with a mix of USGS topographical data, a little bit of ZBrush, a little bit of Substance Painter, a little bit of Maya.
Just drawing from every source you possibly can to make this thing as huge and realistic as possible. So while we still got you all, one person we have not yet talked a lot to is Brian Rouleau. And Brian was responsible for some of the improvements to the game that have actually been some of our audience's favorite bits as they've been playtesting in the beta. So let me, I just realized I've been playing in the green zone. It's hard to find zombies around here, but let me go find some zombies to fight and just get out of my car for a second. Oh, whoa, what's that? The lights are still on in my car. Brian Rouleau, what have you done? Yes. Whoa! I actually.
I think he's frozen.
I think we might have lost Brian. Oh no, that's too bad. Well, at least the audience got to meet him for a second. Yeah. So if Brian's having trouble talking to us, that is totally fine. He can join us anytime he likes. But yeah, so this is something that audience members have been requesting for a really long time. The ability to leave your headlights on, because like on most of our maps, even Trumbull Valley, to some degree or another, it can get pretty dark. And wanting to have sort of the ability to do what you would do in real life, which is aim your car at something and turn on the light so that you can explore it and still see. That is now an option that you have in the game, which is amazing. Brian had to dig into sort of a bunch of our code and not just turn off. So one of the reasons why we didn't leave headlights on all the time was because we can only handle so many lights, in the world at a time and still have the game be performant. And so he had to not just let you turn the lights on, but also make rules in the background for it. For instance, if I got into another car right now, the lights on this car would turn off. Each player, you can have 4 sets of headlights on in multiplayer, but each player only gets to have 1 set of headlights that they have left on. So Brian needed to set up a whole bunch of rules like that. And then, where did those zombies go? There's a zombie over there. And so another thing that has changed recently is melee combat. So I personally am a button masher. I tend to just hit the button about 4 times, as many times as I need to for combat. And one of the problems with that is there's a lot of games, and ours included for a long time, where it would buffer attacks so that if I was just hammering the button, I would end up hitting more zombies than I intended to. Like I would attack the zombie I meant to, and then I would attack one more zombie afterwards because I had buffered an extra attack. So Brian actually went in and messed with the sensitivity of that to make sure that. Oh, there's Brian. Do you want to talk about what you did with the melee combat?
Yeah. So now that my computer's not frozen, so you still have a melee queuing, melee buffering system. That's still in there. It's just a lot less sensitive. So it requires you to, for it to actually queue up another attack, a second melee attack, it requires you to press the button towards the end of your first attack animation. It's especially noticeable with heavy weapons, which have such long animations. So if you're mashing your heavy weapon and then you notice like a bloater nearby and you let off, so long as you let off soon enough, you won't have a second attack queued up that might hit the bloater.
Yeah, which is something that has happened to me many, many times. I'll have my character, like, I'll finish killing the zombie that I'm trying to kill, and then because I had accidentally buffered an attack, I'll end up just, like, my character will dive across the map to hit some other zombie I had no intention of hitting. Another advancement you made to our melee system too is the fact that it used to be that when I was swinging my my weapon and I knocked a zombie down, and I really should have grabbed a big heavy blunt weapon for this. But if I'm swinging my weapon and I knock a zombie down and get them to a position where they're vulnerable, and actually, what I should probably do, if I was any good at this, I would do this. Let me throw some zombies down. You'll notice that it used to be that a lot of your melee attacks would prevent you from being able, you would have to wait until your melee attack was completely done before you could execute a zombie. And now you can actually execute them much more readily. And it makes it much more of a, basically an option in combat to be knocking zombies down, executing them, knocking them down, executing them. Whereas before that was really inconvenient.
Yeah, so effectively, originally the finisher move, the downed attack, didn't queue, it didn't buffer with everything else. So I effectively just hooked it into the same system as the melee buffer. So if you knock down a dude, and the icon should pop up pretty much immediately, and if you press the button right then and there, it'll just queue it and use it as soon as it can.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because I'm sitting here with a bladed weapon, I can't really demonstrate it because I always kill the zombies before they bother to fall down. So it's really inconvenient that I chose that. But maybe I could go find one somewhere during this stream so that we can see that stuff in action. But yeah, those are a couple of the I don't know, some of the features that, even though it's not like a brand new map, like when you get a brand new map, it's really easy to feel like, oh wow, something was added to the game. Players who've been playing this game for a long time are really recognizing some of these other sort of smaller gameplay tweaks as being just as big a deal to sort of improving the player experience in here. So I'm going to go and get myself stuck on this route down to the river just because, I don't know, it's a place to go.
Yeah, one other thing I noticed, Geoffrey, when you walked away from the car and the headlights were still on and you were, a block or two away,
yeah.
In that situation, you might not know where your car is, but now it's quite obvious.
That's true.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually is sort of a problem that players sometimes have, and we've actually been thinking about other solutions we can use for that too. But yeah, it's like it's really easy to tell what the last car I was in was, even from all the way over here. Oh, there we go. Oh, lights just turned off. So you get far enough away, and they eventually turn off. But because lights are expensive. Unless, oh no, maybe that was my battery dying. Oh no. My family and I just went to a drive-in theater recently, and so that's always a fear. That's something you got to worry about. But nope, my lights still work. There we go.
And it started.
So so Valkyrie folks, is there anything else that you want to sort of anything that I've missed? Anything that like you really want to make sure that the audience is aware of as they're driving around in this map and exploring the place?
The small foliage also, like little grass, flowers, some of the little bushes, they got a bit of an up res as well. So you might notice that, especially the flowers. You can't see it so well at night, but the flowers in the grass, have always been there, but they were a little more muted. So we kind of brought the saturation up a little bit more, and actually had to thin them out because once we did that, they were like way too obvious. So there's a lot of little things like that, especially just blending the terrain together a little more, and with the trees, the base of the trees now have roots, so they blend into the terrain a little bit better as well.
The terrain also had materials completely remade for it, using some more Megascans assets.
Yeah, so do you want to talk about how this works? Like, as this is not just like a single texture that was created to be this ground, but it's also clearly not the classic tiling textures you would see from like the very early 2000s. There's something much more complex going on here.
Yeah, so in Unreal, you can paint down, multiple layers of different terrain materials, and they blend pretty seamlessly with height maps. And so we did have to do a little bit of painting, but for the most part, it was just a straight replace of, things like the grass, the rocks, the sand, the roots.
Yeah, the state of the art of video game art is just constantly moving. It's just a constantly moving target, and there's no way to sort of make something one year and then just have it be perennial. It's like people's expectations, their experience in games is just constantly moving forward. And so one of the really advantages to bringing you folks in is you all are experts in whatever the state of the art of Unreal is, and you were able to sort of go in here and and bring a lot of the things that were perfectly normal art to have in a video game when we released 3 years ago, bringing it up to the level of that people expect now, 3 years later, after this game has been out for a while. And so, one thing that I'm really looking forward to, our work with Valkyrie is barely reaching a middle. We are not at the end, and so I think the audience can probably look forward. And we're not going to get into the details of exactly what we've got planned, but I think the audience can look forward to a lot of additional improvements all over the game from these artists at Valkyrie. You can see some of their work here. This is a nice sampling of what they can do, but this is not the end of what they're going to be doing with this game. So I'm really, really happy to have you all on the team, and that you were all here to join us today. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks, Geoffrey.
So we've got a couple folks from QA who have started filing in, and they are going to be the stars of the show for our next segment. So let's really quickly say goodbye to everybody here at Valkyrie. Ryan Blinsky, I'll see you later. Thanks for coming on here. Andrew,
thanks for having us.
Andrew, do you want to say goodbye to the audience?
Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the stream. Hopefully you get to see lots of cool behind-the-scenes stuff, and keep playing. And
then Matt, do you want to anything you want to say as we're wrapping up?
Just a pleasure to be here.
And Brian Rouleau, if you'd like to say anything to the audience as I crash my car.
He froze again.
Oh, Brian froze again. Well, I will say goodbye for Brian. It's been wonderful having him on the team too. He's actually he's one of the folks that I've been working most closely with, and he's been an absolute joy. So thank you for everything you contributed, Brian, as well. All right, so thanks, Valkyrie. I'd love to see you all again some other time, but for right now, let's introduce our next round of guests. This is the Megan. I forgot to say goodbye to Megan. Megan, hey, thank you so much. You were the first artist that we talked to on the stream, and I almost forgot to thank you and say goodbye. Megan, thank you for everything you do.
Sure. Just really quickly, there was a couple of questions in chat about uploading the screenshots afterwards on Discord. And just to let you know, I'll do that right after the stream.
Awesome. Yeah. So Megan is one of the more multi-talented members of our team. Not only does she do social media management, she also likes this map, and it's been just wonderful to be able to see your work in here and just benefit from all of the many things that you bring to the table. So thank you, Megan.
Oh, thank you.
So you all will probably see Megan as a mod in the chat as we keep going forward, especially once Wonder comes and joins us later on at 2 o'clock.